We the People, Unit 3, Lesson 15. How did the framers resolve the conflict about the power of the legislative branch? These are the vocabulary words of the lesson. Don't worry if you don't understand some, they'll be explained later in the video. What powers did the Constitution give to Congress?
First, we must know what is wrong with our government at the moment. What can we improve? What can we give Congress that can fix the situation? Right now, Congress isn't allowed to have taxes or forced taxes on states. It's all up to the states at this point. It's like we're all different countries, even though we're all supposed to be united. What happened to the United States of America? These are no longer colonies. We are united. We all fought together. We cannot have an overpowering Congress. We must have checks and balances some way or another on that specific branch and the other branches. But how will we establish those other branches? Can Congress and what can it regulate? Because right now, the only thing it can regulate is whether they're going to declare war. But they don't even have enough funds to declare war, which makes absolutely no sense. What are we going to do?
What was the problem facing the framers regarding the powers of the three branches of national government?
And what are the main problems we have? Everyone with differentiating opinions. That's one of the beauties of this nation. We can all play a part. But it gets quite annoying when Sam Adams and Alexander Hamilton don't compromise. Like, what are you gonna do? Put both parts of the nation together? One is gonna bring anarchy, one's gonna bring freedom. But do we know which one? No, we don't. So how can we make it sure that human rights are stated and human rights are protected, but at the same time, we do not have a fragile and feeble government? That's one of our main problems that we have.
How should the Constitution be written to give power to Congress?
James Madison said last week that Congress should keep the powers that we already stated in the Articles of Confederation, which isn't a bad idea, but we should also expand on those rights and laws. For example, he stated that Congress should have the power to reject laws from state legislators to make sure that all states are on the same page, which makes sense. But we should also add a generalized area of laws, which means people can expand on them on the future because America will change.
How did the framers solve the problem of distributing power between state governments and national government? This problem was solved by the use of specific and general language. The Constitution gave limits to Congress, but also gave two general clauses that allowed the legislative branch to deal with unprecedented matters. They also included enumerated powers, reserved powers, and concurrent powers. Why did framers give the power to declare war to Congress rather than the president? Well, in simple terms, to keep the executive branch from having too much power. James Madison once claimed the executive power to repel sudden attacks, but not to commence war without the explicit approval of Congress. We must have a healthy separation of powers. Going to war should be stated by the people. The people are a part of the legislative branch. We vote for these legislators to voice our words. If we allow one person, the president, to control everything including the military plus the word of going to war, no one will be able to oppose him or her. That would mean that they would basically become a dictator, and that is not what we want in our capitalist nation. What are the enumerated powers of Congress? What are the general powers?
My favorite, Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution. You ready? Okay. Tax, borrow, money, trade, foreign bank, coin, cash, punish, fraud, mail. Wait, copyright, court, punish, pirates, plan, war. Army, Navy, military, laws, National Guard, control the guard, our capital, and the list goes on with necessary and proper.
Let's repeat that one more time.
Tax, borrow, money, trade, born, bank, coin, cash, punish, fraud, mail. Wait, copyright, court, punish, pirates, plan, war. Army, Navy, military, laws, National Guard, control the guard, our capital, and the list goes on with necessary and proper.
The two general powers that were stated in Article 1, Section 8 were the General Welfare Clause and the Necessary and Proper Clause. What are those two clauses, you may ask? Well, the general welfare is like the happiness and the health of our people. Where should the government interfere and where should it stop and say, hey, that's more of a you problem than a me problem. And for necessary and proper clauses, well, as the scripture says,
why do you have to say goodbye? If I say goodbye, the nation learns to move on. It outlives me when I'm gone. But the scripture says, everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree.
what part of Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution gives Congress the power to conduct a space exploration program? Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the U.S. Constitution gives Congress the right to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writing and discoveries. This includes NASA space exploration programs. What limits are there in the power of Congress? And if so, how might the right of habeas corpus protect from abuse of government? There are several limits to the Congress placed in Article 1, Section 9 of the U.S. Constitution. These include banning the slave trade before 1808, suspending the privilege of writ of habeas corpus, passing ex post facto laws, passing bills of attainder, taxing anything imported or exported from a state, taking money from the treasury without first passing a law to do so, and granting titles of nobility. These all make sure that the government does not become tyrannical and take over the entire country. Us as a people and the state have the right to have rights.
Oh, the writ of habeas corpus, one that I hope our children and posterity use in the future. If you are being arrested and you have no clue for what you are being arrested for, know this, my sons and daughters. If you ask and did not respond to you, you have the right to walk away.
How do the other branches check the power of Congress?
Now, how do we make this amazing constitution constitutional? How do we make this Congress non-tyrannical? How do we put checks and balances into this system to make sure that they don't take control of every single thing? Because there are still two other branches of government. Well, the executive branch can have the president who is allowed to veto or pass bills. Yes, of course, the Congress can repass those bills or override it because the president should be owning power. And also, the judicial branch should claim if a legislative law is constitutional or unconstitutional. I can't wait to see the civil cases that they will bring up and that they will reach the Supreme Court of the United States. That'd be quite a show. And of course, the legislative branch itself, it's a bicameral system, so there's two houses. There's the House of Reps and the Senate. So at this point, it's well balanced, I would say. This point in time, I believe that all that is can be said about our Congress, Article 1. It is an amazing system that I hope will flourish in the future. I hope James Madison and Alexander Hamilton don't go at each other's throats. And when Thomas Jefferson gets back home, oh boy, that's gonna be a show. But I can't wait to see this Congress and this country, this land prosper. Well, gotta get ready for my constitutional convention. I gotta drive up to Philadelphia again. Ugh.
Reviewing the lesson. What disagreements about the powers of Congress did the framers have? How did they resolve these disagreements?
We need a strong national government. We cannot leave these states to ruin everything because they're acting like they're little countries while we are all united. Are you crazy? Are you literally insane? If we let the government have all the power, what will happen to us, the people and the states? If we let this national government rule us all over, then how do we stop them if they go too far? Because you're giving them all the power of making laws, enforcing war, court systems. You have to leave the states to do what they want. We are all united. We help each other one way or another. But we cannot have someone controlling all of us like Great Britain once did. Listen here, puppet number 2. This national government isn't going to control every single aspect of your life. We will have enumerated powers stating what they can do, and then we'll have limits on those. And we have check and balances with the other branch of the government. Look, I have this list of beautiful enumerated powers.
What general powers does Article 1, Section 8 grant to Congress? Why are these general powers necessary? These general powers are necessary because they let us deal with problems in the future. These unprecedented matters or problems that we can't just all state down because every single situation has their specific problem, and the Constitution cannot state every single specific aspect of a problem that our country might face. As time goes on, new things are discovered. How would the Constitution deal with phone problems if it's not specifically stated? It is implied by the Constitution. What limits does Article 1 place on the power of Congress? Checks and balances takes place when the judicial and executive branch make sure that the Congress is limited. Some examples are: the bill passed by Congress must be sent to the President for the approval and signature. When the executive branch or President signs the bill, it becomes a law. If the President decided to veto the law or deny it, it goes back to Congress, where each house must have a 2/3 vote to ratify the law. Normally, the law by now will die in Congress since the President vetoed it. For the U.S. Supreme Court / judicial branch, they have power to declare a law made by Congress unconstitutional. Thanks to these two major players, we make sure that Congress is not being tyrannical. We make sure that Congress doesn't have all the power. If you used only general powers of Congress to decide whether to pass a law, what problems might arise? If the Constitution only included the general powers for Congress, it wouldn't have limits. And if necessary and proper and general welfare didn't have limits, Congress could basically declare and make any law that they want. And that's why we need more than just general powers. We need enumerated and limited. If you used only the enumerated powers of Congress whether to pass a law, what problems might arise? If Congress could only use the powers listed in the Constitution, it would be a gigantic mess. Because the Founding Fathers couldn't list every single problem that would happen in the future. How do you think Founding Fathers would imagine? Could they imagine having phones and computers at their disposal?
No, everything changes by time, and that is why it is necessary to have the general powers and enumerated powers working together with limits. Next up is the final lesson. Thank you for watching, and all credits are linked in the description. Bye bye!